Computer. Welcome to the Dr. Tom Show. Today I am really excited to have a fantastic human being and gentleman in front of me who's got a very exciting career, which many of us dream about, but very few of us get to live. Sam Bowden is the guitarist in Neck Deep, which is a fantastic band. I've actually started enjoying some of your songs, Sam, so I might become a raving fan over the next few months. But thank you very much for joining us on the show. I'm really excited to get your insights today, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us.
No worries. Thank you for having me be a part of it. Very excited for it.
So, we met several months ago, and it was really interesting when I first met you. You talked about your career and what you do and being part of a successful band that travels around the world. And one of the things you said to me is you'd pretty much been on tour for the whole year. Now, I travel out for weekends to speak around the world and back, and I find that hard enough, but to be away from home for like a year, what's that like? And I'd like to get into some of the things you did to help yourself along the way, and just tell me what it's like to be on the road for so long.
So it honestly depends exactly what for years now, we kind of have been touring quite heavily back to back because the opportunity's there, and in this sort of day and age with the decline of music and the oversaturation of music, it's kind of, you can't just tour freely when you want to just like, oh, I fancy doing a tour, let's go. And also it's so expensive to tour and do things, and visas and everything's like time sensitive, that a lot of the time it makes sense to do things back to back. So all the gears in transit, you're there to, because when you have to send stuff and ship stuff, it all really does add up and makes it less cost effective. So you have to see it from that point a bit. So yeah, for a while we've been touring quite heavily back to back, and it can be quite exhausting, but also we in them few years we were doing world tours. So we were seeing we would do typically like the UK, we do most of Europe, we would do obviously a full US tour. We would go to, and on it as well, the last world tour we did, I think, which was when we were out for about a year, we started the whole thing with Hawaii. So it's crazy. It's like starting a tour in paradise. So like absolutely no complaints there. And it ended, we ended up going also to like Southeast Asia, Japan, Australia. And then for the first time ever, we did South America. We did Chile, Brazil, and Argentina, and ended in Brazil. So again, like an amazing, like blessed moment. So and that was about 4 months back to back. Because when I say a year, it is pretty much a year, but sometimes you might have like 2 weeks at home. Yeah. Whether you choose to spend the 2 weeks at home or in like America or somewhere else that you currently are staying is, dependent on you solely. But yeah, that was like 4 months of back to back, not being home or not like, you have a few days off, but again, we don't add too many days off because days off are expensive.
But I suppose if you're there that long, and you say you start off in Hawaii, which is like paradise, how do you manage your energy if you just come straight out the blocks into like the most exciting sort of few days touring and playing and meeting people? And you've got 4 months ahead. Is that daunting, or do you run on adrenaline for the whole time?
I think a bit of both. We started with Hawaii and then America, and then the US was straight afterwards. So to me, it's quite nice because with the US, we travel now in a bus or like a bandwagon, which you've got beds basically. You can sleep on the road. So after the show, you've got a bed and you've got just all of your things there. You've got a shower on there, and it's very comfortable. You don't have to worry about airports and early mornings checking in and doing all this. And that's kind of where I get run down is where it's fly shows. So for the first part of the tour, it's quite nice because we're comfortable with America. The shows are amazing. And I mean, the show's amazing everywhere, but generally it's a lot more comfortable when you're touring somewhere like America or the UK, Europe, where you've got like a hub, you've got like a home on wheels. But when it gets to like Australia and Southeast Asia and South America, you're looking at sometimes you'll do a 20-hour fly day, or I mean, the last time we did Australia, we had a 30-hour fly day.
Wow.
And then you land, and then the next day you have a show, and it's exhausting. And it's quite hard, I think, mostly on Ben, our singer, because you can just get so run down, and like vocally, it doesn't matter how tired you are. If your voice is tired and you haven't been able to accommodate that and look after it well, and flying obviously dries your throat out. It's tough on him, I think, but it's hard. Like when you're doing all that, you do get a bit run down. You just have to stay on top of it and make sure you're not going out and going too crazy. Because
I suppose that's the temptation, isn't it? When you're young and it's new and you're getting some fame, is that a real temptation for you to indulge in that and enjoy it?
I think, like, to some degree, a little bit of wanting to go out and like, because you're also in the new areas and like, oh, let's go for a drink here, or let's do this because we're in like Sydney or wherever, and there is a bit of that. But we're all like, our band and crew are all like so tightly wound together that we're a bit tribal with it. We don't usually go out and do we kind of stay to ourselves. So we might even just stay in the dressing room, might just do the bar next door, or might go back to the hotel where we're staying. Because a lot of times as well, with them shows, it's you play the show and then the next morning you have a lobby call, and sometimes it's like 6, sometimes it's earlier, sometimes maybe a little bit later, and it's a lobby call to get to the hotel, to get to the airport, to fly, to then land at sort of 2-3 p.m, drive then to the venue for like 5-ish, 5-6-ish, sound check, doors open, and then obviously in like 2-3 hours you play the set, and then obviously go to bed at 1-2 a.m, back up at 6 to the airport. And if you're having them back to back, sometimes Australia can be that back to back, and it's just like you're just kind of in limbo in this like weird headspace and a bit delirious for a couple of weeks, because
It's not the glamour that people make out, the private jets and the helicopter in, and
I've never been in a jet.
Isn't it?
I've never traveled anything over the economy. No, it's I mean, yeah, them days are for, I think, for just, I don't know, actual celebrity people that just have crazy dispensable money. But we're a rock band trying to, be quite sensible with money and that.
I love the fact that you're doing that, because it shows that you're really chasing and driving your passion. You're not getting caught up in the publicity or the fame of it. Really, is it what you want to do? Is it your passion? Do you love it that much that you know?
Yeah, and I think that's the same for everyone. Like, we all got into this music and the idea of touring. I mean, initially it came from being young before school, watching Kerrang TV, seeing these music videos of bands, and it was specifically a band, Blink-182, who had lots of music videos that just looked so fun and a little bit careless, but not offensively careless, and just like loads of fun playing music and just traveling, and that was just always something that stuck out to me. I remember thinking, that I would love to do that if some sort of segment of what I'm viewing here was possible in the future. Like, I would just take an ounce of that. And I mean, obviously last year we were super fortunate to tour with them, which was, I mean, a massive bucket list.
I grew up on Blink-182. I am very jealous of your chance to do that. How did you transition from watching Kerrang TV to doing it? Like, where did that opportunity come, and what did you have to do to get there?
It's quite, I think it just doesn't happen. It can happen slowly. I think it's like, if whatever you do, like, nothing really happens overnight. And sometimes it's like, if you were to start working out from ground zero to have like a body goal, you wouldn't notice it day by day, but someone who hasn't seen you for a month would go, oh wow, you've transformed yourself. And I think that it's a little bit like that in music, where little things will happen. Like you might get a big festival that you play, and it might be our first taste that, like, wow, like look at all these bands we're now like kind of associated with or like playing with. Never thought I'd be like in these sort of same areas. And then there's another one, and then you do a support on one tour, and it kind of like is just these little things. And then you end up meeting at some weird other show or like an awards night, and I don't know, it just happens sometimes, and you don't sort of notice it. And then when like an offer like that comes through, it's kind of like, oh Jesus, when did this become like a reality? Like,
I love that. I love
so
that you talked about a budget. I watched a little YouTube video, you guys on tour. I know it wasn't on tour, it was like MTV Cribs, but for the bus. And I saw the
ooh,
bus,
a bus in
and
Vegas.
you're making it sound like it's luxury, but it's tight,
Yeah,
isn't it? It's a
it,
small space.
it is, because we have 12 people on there.
Wow.
I know. So some bands, I mean, buses are just so expensive. They are so expensive, and to tour for 6 weeks is it's like some bands, if you have the money, you'll take two buses and try and split the load between it. But we don't. And again, like no one really grinds on another person in our unit of like band crew. Everyone just gets on so well that it never really feels like you're claustrophobic or running out of space or anything. You are quite comfortable, except when it's really hot.
Yeah.
When it gets, if you're down in Arizona and it's 40 something degrees and the AC stops working, it's I want to fly home.
Yeah. Is there anything you kind of do to keep yourselves in check and, keep, because obviously there's going to be late nights, early mornings, eating out on the road. Like, is there anything you do habits wise or health wise to keep you in check? Because you are a fit, healthy young man at the moment. And how do
I,
you maintain that?
I think we try and keep one another in check to some degree. I think if anyone notices someone being a little bit out of character or anything, it will be sort of addressed to make sure everyone's okay and like if there's anything that can be done. But in terms of like well-being, for me, and definitely a few other guys in our touring party, it's been fitness, and that's kind of been like a grounding thing of like starting your day, or at least earlier in the day, of doing something. And fortunately, when we tour America, it's usually great weather in a lot of places, so we carry a bunch of like loose free weights and mats, and we try and do Insanity, like that workout program, or we just do like set up a couple of routines just to do with the free weights and try and keep fit that way. Or if we're in nice areas where you can go for a run, because America's like gridlock. Sometimes if you try and go for a run, there's a stop sign every 30 yards and you have to wait, so it's not very practical. But if you can, like, we'll go for a run around the city and do things. So generally a lot of that, and also going to see stuff in the day, like once you've not got something, once you've sound checked or once you've done the part of your day where you've got a gap, trying to go and see stuff, or getting a coffee somewhere, just try and like live life a little bit normal, as much as you can. Because I think for the first few years of touring, or for quite some time in touring, it was a little bit like, look at this, we do this, and like there was a bit of going out, and there was a bit of this, and at some point you'd come home from a tour and you would have like that reality check of like, okay, now I've gone from everything to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that sinking feeling, you can't. It's always like, as well, like the grass is always greener. You're on tour and you're like, I can't wait to be home and do all these things. You get home and you're immediately like, I hate this, I want to go back on tour. But for a while, years ago, it was quite difficult to come back from a tour because you'd experience such highs, and it was also, for a lot of us, the first time going to a lot of these countries. So you'd have these like super, super highs, and you'd get home and there'd be nothing. And, living in Lincoln is not the world of things here. In whether it's food or entertainment, especially once you've traveled so much, that you are very limited, and it's a bit weird. So now we try and on tour live a little bit more of a normal life. So getting up early and going to sleep at normal times, and trying to regulate things a little bit better with, like I say, fitness. We try and be productive more now and write music on tour.
But that's important for, I think, not just for your physical well-being, but obviously your mental well-being. If you're not getting those super highs and super lows. And I think it's Dirks Bentley, who's a big country singer. Fitness is a big thing for him. I think he does 2 workouts a day when he's on the road, just to keep that regularity going, and why his career's spanned. I love the fact you talked about accountability in your group as well. It seems like you all, I suppose it's very easy for one person to go off, but you all keep each other in check, and that can be paralleled into anywhere in life, whether it's a family unit, whether it is a band, or whether it's a business or a company. That accountability it's so key to having success and longevity, and I think it's brilliant that you've done that. Is that something you've always done, or have you had members of the band kind of sort of the tour group test the waters a little bit, and that's where it's come from? You know,
I think it's come slightly naturally with Net Deep and the lyrics and everything, and the message that sort of Ben specifically is putting across. Is very hopeful and very supportive in, like, you know, an album. It's called Life's Not Out to Get You. I think there is a lot of like trying to engage everyone together and support each other and show people their significance and like importance. And on tour through the years, we've seen so many bands and heard of so many bands and artists that suffer so heavily from mental health, and there's people that have lost their lives through it. And we have a really good friend from Chicago called Johnny Boucher, and he runs a non-profit called Hope for the Day. And that's on mental health. And he, for a long time, has come out on tours with us, and he would open our set. So before we would come out, he would come out first, and he would get the microphone, and he would do a speech to the crowd and just basically say, you know, how important life is, and, you know, your existence is key. And you know, he would have this super, super uplifting speech. And he would come with us every day. He came to Europe and did it, to the UK, and obviously he's done it through America. And he really does amazing things. So he's been a big part in helping us. And obviously he would travel with us as well on the bus. So we would be talking to him a lot and seeking advice about, you know, how to keep everything glued together on the road with one another. And he's been very inspiring for that. So I think it's just about, once you know everyone and you've toured with people for this long, you see when someone's out of character or like having a minute. And it is easy to get that because you don't have that personal space. All you have is your tiny little coffin bed you can just pull a little curtain to, and that's kind of your minute away. Although some on days off you can get a hotel and things like that and have your moment away. But generally, if you see someone, you try and pick them up, or try and or give them space, whatever it is that individual's needing. But everyone is pretty accommodated to try and make sure everyone's happy.
It's so mature, like, and it's really nice to hear. And I'm sure you realize, but you know, I want to pay credit to it. You must be in millions of people's living rooms, in their ears, and, you know, on their radios, and that's actually making a difference. If the words of your lyrics are that way, you're having the potential to really affect and change people's lives, not just for the positivity that music brings us, but the lyrics could really change the course and direction of someone's day, if not life. And
which is amazing. And I think that's like ultimately the biggest wish and sort of achievement for someone that creates music, is for it to touch on someone like that. Because for me, it's always been sort of my rock is music. It has so many moods and emotion that I'm sure for a lot of people, you can put on one song and feel something, or like your whole mental state can just shift. You can be feeling one way and you put on a song or an album and you come out of it and go, okay, I'm not where I just was, 15, 30 minutes or 3 minutes ago even. Like, it really can sort of take you somewhere and have a message, and it always has been with me. So for our music to be able to do that, and we do hear that a lot, and a lot of people say, certain songs have like saved their life or turned them around, and that's crazy. And ultimately, like, that's the biggest thing, we could want. It's more than any sort of like success or anything, is for it to be able to have some impact on someone's life, no matter how big or small.
And that is legacy that lasts, isn't it? That, fame can come and go, but that's a legacy that really does last. I heard something this morning. A voice coach was saying that musicians are the best storytellers in the world because they get their point across in just 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's incredible. And so, staying on emotions, talk to me about emotions. Do you still get nervous before you go on stage?
I know the next show I will be the most nervous I've ever been in my life. We've never had this much time off before. It's the most bizarre feeling ever. But I tend to not get nervous for shows day to day. If it's a big show, or when we play like London, New York, LA, certain shows like that, a lot of our team, like certain aspects of our team, are based in areas like that, or fly to areas like that. So sometimes those shows are a bit more pressure because you've got your team there watching. You don't want to do a bad performance, and you feel a little bit more nervous then. And hometown shows as well, when you've got family and friends there, there's a little bit of nerves running as well. But tend to not get too nervous now. You kind of just get into the swing of it, and you just go out there and do it. And also a big show, if it's a really big show, sometimes it can be very daunting. I mean, last year on that Blink tour, we played a festival in Quebec. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was called, but there were three. It goes on for a week or 2 weeks every day, and it's just a few bands. And so on our day, there was three bands. It was us, Offspring, and Blink-182. And the capacity when we played was 84,000 people.
Wow.
And that's by far like the biggest show. We've never even done like a show of half that capacity before. Like, we went from doing, I don't know, maybe the biggest show being around 20,000. All of a sudden there was this festival at this, and it was the most bizarre feeling ever, walking out feeling like Queen or something playing Live Aid. It was, and that was nervous just because I've never seen like a Game of Thrones army in front of me. Like,
Wow.
it was very bizarre, and that was nervous because there's a lot of people here hearing this if I mess up, so don't do that.
God, be on stage with Offspring, like your Offspring and Blink-182 is what I grew up on. Like, that's incredible to be alongside those bands. Is
Yeah, it was
extraordinary
unbelievable,
achievement.
crazy, and it blew my mind that there was no one else. It was us three and 84,000 people. I mean, I guess not much music gets out to that area in Quebec because they're all there dying to see us in the industry. So.
But let's stay on that. Let's blow your own trumpet. Like, your band's done really, really well over the last few years, hasn't it? I mean, where have you ranked in the charts? You've been up in the top 3, haven't you, in the charts before?
Our album, this album that just came out, was number 4 in the UK, and the one before was actually also came in at number 4. So that's 2 back to back at number 4. Last album, we did get number 2 in the US, which was very bizarre. I can't remember where it came this year in the US, but yeah, it's been crazy. Like, for a band like us in rock, and to be in the charts in like a top 5 amongst, I mean, this year was amongst like Taylor Swift and Ronan Keating. I mean, they're nowhere near our style of music, and any fan that knows of them definitely has never heard of us. So to be in that kind of ballpark of charting is definitely bizarre, and it's all sort of like things you can't really get used to. Those things,
But it's a huge accolade, because at the beginning of the show, you said that you were talking about the oversaturation of music and the amount of people out there. That's an incredible achievement to get to.
Definitely, that's exactly it. And with so much music being out there, I do think it's so hard to do things like that, because it's just so much music.
And do you dare to say where you see Neck Deep going over the next few years? What's your aim, or whether it's chart placements, whether it's, you know, effects you have on people's lives, where you want to tour? What do you see for Neck Deep over the next few years?
I think this one we did go a little bit heavy on trying to do well in the charts, and we did have a little bit of a race for it. And I don't think we'll do that again. I think that's great, and like it really does pay off, and it's amazing to have that. But I think honestly nowadays charting and doing all that it's just a little bit of a game, and it felt like that on this. It felt like it felt a bit weird to kind of like be trying to get in this and do this and like selling things, and like everyone's doing it and everyone's trying to do all of these things to get there. And ultimately, I think we're just going to write music and continue to write music for us and for fans. You know, we'll always try and find that balance of writing what the fan wants to hear, you know, not giving a disconnect, but also making it still enjoyable for us and things that are influencing us, and being able to do that. So there will always still be change in the music, but I think in terms of charts and things like that, I don't think I mean, personally, I don't think I'm going to be chasing anything like that. I think we've achieved great things, and like a number one, if you're talking about number one, again, it's one of them things where you need to just land on a quiet week when Taylor Swift isn't releasing an album. And it's just, I don't know, what does it all mean at that point? I think just being able to do what we do is amazing, and it was amazing before charting stuff, and it will continue to be. So I think just focusing on writing and being consistent with all of that.
That's so important, to be congruent to what you want to do and not get caught up in that. So many times in life we do things to please other people or for accolades that aren't really us. And I love that you've said that. You've shared so much stuff today, which has been really insightful, interestingly insightful, but also very practical and useful. You know, accountability, having routines, doing it for your true purpose, not somebody else's. And it's extremely admirable to see a young band do that. And, you know, I want to give credit to you and your colleagues, because it's definitely having an impact in the world. And this small little podcast, hopefully it's going to help, you know, a lot more people too. Is there any words of wisdom that you've got that you'd like to share with our audience? I want to see what comes out, Sam. Come on.
I just think no matter what you're doing, because it doesn't matter, like obviously for me, I'm touring and traveling, and it might seem all glam and all of that, and it might seem like, oh, I wish I was doing that, but there's a lot of other things that come with that, and you know, you're time away from things. I mean, look, we've got a year off now, which is, it might sound great to some people, but it's hell. So I think whatever it is you're doing in life, you just have to enjoy, and it doesn't matter what your job is or what you want, you know, where you want to go, you just have to be happy. And I think find those things that make you happy, and then try and kind of make money from it. Essentially, just try and work off that, because if you get into something and you're not going to be happy, everything else is going to sort of like have a knock-on effect and deteriorate if your well-being isn't looked after. So I think just find something you're happy in and pursue it. And if something seems unrealistic, I mean, still pursue it. I mean, everything that I'm doing seemed unrealistic, and it still does. I mean, the things that I want to achieve still seem unrealistic, but hey, you never know. So I think just follow your dreams, follow what makes you happy. Like, don't let anyone tell you any different.
I love that. I couldn't say it better myself. So the band is Neck Deep. Where can people find out more about you or Neck Deep and listen to your music?
I mean, we're on all streaming platforms. Obviously, the main ones would be Spotify and iTunes, but any more additional information, we have a Facebook page, an Instagram and Twitter, or will just be Neck Deep UK.
Perfect. Well, Sam, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today. I really, really do appreciate it. And I've got so much from those few minutes that we've spent together. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Hang on a second.